Hey guys, welcome back. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and delete a contact from our contact list. Now, obviously, we're going to need to make an API call to our server. So we need to make sure that on the server, we delete that contact from there so we get a successful response. So upon getting a successful response, we don't want to fetch the contacts afresh, but rather what we want to do is we want to look in our local context and remove the contact that we have deleted. So that's going to save us from making another extra request. And once we remove it, of course, we are going to be doing it from the details UI. Once we remove it, we are going to navigate back here with the contact removed in the list. So to get started, I'm going to now have a type. So in our constants, then types, I'm going to have a type for delete contact. So over here, we can have delete contact. We need a loading, an error, and also a success. So let's have delete contact loading. I'm going to select these ones, then I'm going to rename create to delete. Another thing we need is we need to keep track of the delete contact state. So we're going to go to the initial states, make sure we have delete contacts in there. So we have delete. So in the context initial states, actually allow me to rename initial states because I wanted to rename this even from the start. So it should be initial states. Now in our initial states, in the contact state, we need to have delete contacts, delete contact. Now we can have data, then error and loading. So now this is good, we have it. So we need to create an action that will be deleting a contact. So if you go to actions, go to contacts, we can now have delete contact. So I'm going to duplicate this because it's going to be a lot similar. Then rename it to delete contact. So we need to change our action types to be delete contact. So delete. Now that we have that, when we call this action, we are going to need to pass an ID of the contact we want to delete. So here I'm going to pick the ID. So once we get the ID, we are going to now be making a request to delete. We are going to be making a delete request. So we can change this to delete. So it's going to be going to contacts, then slash the ID. So here we can use these backticks here to be able to pass a dynamic param here. So you can pass the ID, also have that to pass it like that. So whenever if it finishes to delete, then we can dispatch delete contact success. When it fails, we can dispatch delete contact fail with the error. We need to also go to our reducers and make sure that once we do this, we can remove the contact that we have deleted from the list. Okay, so how do we do that? So if we take a look at our, let me come here and log in just a bit. Make sure our token is valid. So I'm gonna copy our token, then I will have it here. Do this, so it's gonna be bearer like that. So when we delete, so here you see we have, let's say we want to delete this contact with this ID. So we'll be going to the delete, then it's contacts slash the ID. So here let's go to try it out and specify the ID. So when we execute, you see that it sends us nothing. So there's no way here that we can know which contact we deleted. So we are going to need to keep track of, we are going to need to keep the ID and also send it here as the payload. So instead of us sending res.data, we're just going to send the ID like this. And now since you're not using this, we can just remove it. Yeah, so you might wonder why it's sending a 204 and how Axios would interpret that. So every status code that is sent back that is a 200 level, it's going to be considered as a success. So this will still run. Now we want to go to the reducers. So if we go to the reducers, that's going to be reducers contacts.js. So here we need to also handle the delete contact stat, the delete contact loading. So let's have it and have delete contact loading. So if we are loading, then we want to change the delete loading state. So we can have this very return. So that's going to be return then this is gonna be delete contact, then we change loading to true. Then I'm also gonna have to handle the success and also the fail. So for the success, we can do delete contact success. Now when it's successful, we want to turn loading to false again. Also when it fails, so let's change this one to fail, and also we need to turn loading to false again. Alright, so now, when it succeeds, you see we turn loading to false, but we need to also remove that contact from this list. So the way we do that is, if we take a look at our get contact success, we also want to affect the get contacts object. So if we come here on the success, we can now say for get contacts, we want to keep all the contacts that were there except the one we just deleted. So we can get the one we just deleted by doing item, then returning all the items for which the ID is not equal to this. So we can say item, then we want to return item.id is not equal to the payload. Remember, the payload now will be the ID. So here it should be is not equal to, like this. So when you save it, we will be basically looking at every other contact we already have and then returning the contacts for which the ID is not equal to the one we just deleted, meaning it's going to be removed here. Alright, so I think this is enough for us to start testing it. Also looks like we have removed our create contact loading state. So let's take it back. Let's take it back. Funny, huh? So this is gonna be loading. Then we are turning this to true, and that's it. So let's fix our imports and also test it. So I'm gonna rerun this. Now we have this issue here. So let me go to context provider, make sure our states are being imported properly. Remove this here, save, reload. Now it's back. So if we go here and we click here, we need to call the other action. So for us to do that, now before we call our action, we can decide to first show a pop-up model that will prompt the user to confirm if they want to do that. But right now, let's just go ahead and work on the deletion. Then we can add the confirmation model later. So if we go to our components, we're gonna go to components, then the detail, contact detail. Now remember, we handled the deletes. We are setting these options in the screen. So actually, we're gonna go to the screen. So we're gonna go to screens, then the detail. Now here, we need to have an on press. So you can have on press. So on press here will be a function. Now remember, we need the dispatch because we need the dispatch sent to the reducer. So let's get the dispatch by selecting it from our global context. So similarly, the way we do this, we're just gonna have to do the same thing here. Then make sure we are importing use context from React. So here we can have use context from React. Then for the global context, we'll just import it. Now things are looking good. So we have the dispatch here and have an on press. So in the on press, we can call delete contact, the action. Then we need to pass the ID. So at this point, we already have the ID from item, so we can pass item.id. So that's going to be item.id. Then we can pass the contact's dispatch like this. So now that we have this, we need a way to know that the contact has been deleted. So in the previous videos, I showed you how you can use a callback function here. So here I'm going to do a callback function. So once we get here, then we're going to be navigating back to the list. So navigate, then we are going to go to the contact list. So I can do contact list here. Let's make sure we are importing it like this. Then now that we have a callback function, we need to expect it in the action. So if we come here, we can also say on success, then down here in the .then, once we dispatch the reducer, we can call the on success. Okay. So now if we come here, let's say we click on a contact, and now let's say we click on delete. So when we click there, nothing's happening now. So let's try to see what exactly is going on. So here I'm going to console log the ID to make sure we are actually making the API call. So I'm gonna rerun the app. Now if we come here and click, this is not being called, so we need to know why. Oh, so this is added to a wrong one. Sorry guys. So this should be on the second one. So I'm gonna copy the on press and bring it to the second touchable opacity. So now if we click delete, you see that we have the ID here, and when it's deleted we get navigated here. So to make sure it was deleted from the list, let's delete this name other. So we're gonna do this, and now it's gone. Let's delete also this one. Now it's gone. All right. So we are able to remove it from the list without actually making another extra call to the server, which is good. Where were we? All right. So let's delete this one just to confirm. So if we click delete, you see it's gone. Now for now, things are working. This is how we want it to be. Now I need to remove this on press because it should not be doing this. It should actually be starting the contact, but I'm not gonna be implementing that. You guys have the API and the code is gonna be open source. So if you guys wanna add that, go ahead and raise a pull request on GitHub. All right, so now we can delete from the list, but let's add a confirmation for the user to know that they are really going to do some action that can lead them to lose data. So every time the user clicks on press here, we want to show the alert. So in the log, so if we take a look at the alert we had made in our for the logout, I'm gonna go. So this is the one I'm talking about is this one here. So I'm gonna go here in the logout so we can reuse it. Okay, so want this alert. So I'm just gonna copy it. Then I can come back to my screen. That's gonna be here. So before we call delete contact, we can first show the alert. Let's make sure we're importing the alert. And now every time they click, so now when they confirm by clicking OK, then we can have this code run. So we can bring this code here and save. All right, so now if you come here to the detail and click delete, you see, are you sure I want to log out? Oh damn it, that's not what we want. So we want to say, are you sure? So let's rename this to delete contact. Then we want to say, are you sure you want to remove? Then let's use a first name here. That would be first name dot last name dot item dot first name, and save. Let's have a space here. So now if we user clicks, we tell them, are you sure you want to remove, then the name. If they click OK, we go ahead and remove. So we also want to be able to show that the delete is being loaded here. That's because now when we click delete like this, see that nothing is happening. So we can do that by coming here where we are selecting from the context. So now we can select the state for delete contact, and we are specifically involved in the loading. So we are sure that every time we start to delete, so if we go to our action, so the action is here, then delete contact, we dispatch delete contact loading, and in the reducers, every time we start to delete a contact, which is here, we change the delete contact set to delete contact loading set to true. So we can now come over here in our screen and select loading like this. So every time we are loading, we are not going to be showing that icon. So we can say, if we are loading, then we want to show maybe an activity indicator. All right. Otherwise, we're going to show the icon. So let's make sure we put the activity indicator. Let's give it some color. Let's use the primary one. Colors.primary and save. Let's make it small. So we pass size. So size here can be large or small. Small is good. Now, if we come here, oh, it's not really, and it's undefined. So what we want to make sure we are selecting it from contact state. So contacts state like this, then that's why we want to destructure the delete state. So now we can move this one in here and save. Okay, so let's log in. Password, save. Okay, let's go to one, click, we want to remove. Notice that it didn't actually show the loading state. That's because we are setting the items only when we render this component. So we want to make sure that this loading is also added in our use effect dependencies. So you can come here and have the loading. So if we come back again here and click load, click OK. So now it's loading until it goes away. So that's all we wanted to achieve. So if you sticked around, thanks guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.